What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com, and I'm delighted today to be joined by the pride of yellow batter in Drogheda, the undefeated Irish prospect Ciaran Clarke, before his main card fight against Keir Harvie at the upcoming Bellator Dublin show. Ciaran, thank you very much for joining me. How are you today?
Oh, good, man. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
No bother at all. It's funny, I mentioned there you're on the main card, and I think a lot of the criticism from maybe a lot of the Irish fighters is that the right people haven't been pushed, the right people haven't been given the big, I suppose, spot on the card. You know, Brian Moore maybe, and then a few others, and even back in the day with Paul Redmond and others. But you're one of the ones everyone says, they're doing it right with him. They're giving him the right spots. So how great is that for you? And is that something that you've kind of noticed over the last while? The Bellator are giving you those spots.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Like, you know, I think it really shows what they do think of me in that as well. And look, I know the crack as well. Like I sell a lot of tickets and that as well. So I think that helps me. And like, you know, been ahead of the likes of Brian Moore and Paul Redmond, as you mentioned, and stuff. And again, those guys deserve as well. It's just, I just think the way it works out. Bring good support. Maybe the bit of the undefeated is helping me as well. But no, I just think it's brilliant that they even think that of me, and to be alongside the likes of Romero, the last one, and all the likes of these guys, lads, Olympians and world champions. It's unreal, like, you know.
It's very good. And I mentioned Drogheda there to start off. I suppose if we kind of go back from the start, and a lot of people from America and stuff will be tuning in to listen to this. So your story, like in Drogheda, if people don't know it, and I'm not even too familiar with Drogheda. Like, I'm on the exact opposite side of the country. So could you tell us what it was like? Obviously Drogheda, it's the biggest town, or one of the biggest towns in Ireland. What was it like growing up in Drogheda, and how did you kind of get into MMA because of that, I suppose?
Growing up in Drogheda, as you mentioned, it's the biggest town in Ireland per head of population. Anyway, it's in the smallest county, County Louth, and which actually Louth is the two biggest towns in Ireland, believe it or not. Dundalk and Drogheda. Drogheda's bigger than Dundalk, but like, I mean, just, I suppose it's kind of like, it's not that far from Dublin and not that far from Belfast. You can have that. It's like, put it this way, like, people from Dublin would call us boggers, like, but we kind of call people, our cultures, we kind of call people that live out in the country cultures, you know, the way. So because we're in the town, you know, the way. But yeah, growing up in Drogheda, like, I mean, it's kind of the same as growing up in Dublin or anywhere else, really. I think that kind of town mentality and small town mentality, but now it's such a big town, if that makes sense, you know. So everybody kind of knows each other, and growing up, just kind of the usual, really, just the same crack, you know. I wouldn't think of any different, you know, anywhere else hanging around the street, and just good times, you know what I mean?
How did you get into MMA then? Was it? We hear a lot of cases like people, you know, getting into maybe a few fights growing up, or some people get into it because, you know, their mother or father put them into judo or something when they were young. What way was it for you?
Yeah, well, I kind of beat around the bush with this question a lot, but it seems yourself, Sean, will get into it. But so growing up in Drogheda, like, you know, I was the eldest of four in my family. Growing up with me, single parent house with my mother. My mum and dad split up when we were young. It never like affected me around. It was nothing like that. It was just me. My dad had his own. Not that he wasn't there or nothing like that. It was nothing like that. He ended up having his own wife and kids. But anyway, so I was the eldest in the house, and it was just like myself, my brother Darryl, obviously, that trains with me as well, and then my two younger sisters, and my mum in the house. So just in a council house, like in an estate, and you know, growing up, like, you know, again, like I mentioned there, getting into fights and stuff like that obviously happens everywhere, I think, anyway. And for me, it was like, being the eldest, I kind of had in my own little funny mentality as a little kid and teenager. Like, I had this kind of, like, you know, man of the house mentality, if that makes sense, you know. And it's funny enough, my mother will probably see this and laugh because I don't do a tap at home. But in my own little funny mind, you know what I mean, I kind of had that mentality. So like, if I got into it, you know, scrap in the street around like that, and you know, I was like, I don't know, like, or if, like, you know, my brother got into trouble with someone and like, he's coming to you, you know what I mean? Not that he was like that, but like, that was my mindset. I was like, you know, I have to be the big brother here, or you know, some, you know, things of that happen, or someone comes to take something from you, someone older or someone bigger, and you know, you have to be able to defend yourself. And that consumed my thoughts very early on. Like, I was like, you know, it was such a, you know, it was like, you couldn't be weak, you know, the way. That was a big thing for me, you know, and being able to defend myself is such a massive thing. So the love of that, and then the likes of myself, my brother killing each other growing up and stuff, and just the normal kind of brothers thing. The love of I suppose combat kind of came, not been violent or anything, but just that kind of mentality the two of us had, and dabs in a bit of boxing like every young fella kind of does, I think, in the town anyway. And then from there, just my mates in school were trying MMA at the time, and went into the training, and these boys were telling me they were training months and they were going to have fights, and I went in and I was kind of known for I was real stubborn, so I went in and started headlocking the boys, and so I was tapping the boys out, and I was like, no way, these boys, they're trained as months and I'm tapping the boys out. But I found out then very quickly that the boys already bluffed me, you know what I mean? So, but ever since that, then just kept training, and under a year later I had my first fight, and little did I know it'd take me to here, Sean, to be honest.
That's a very interesting story. And there's the saying that goes around, hard times breed hard men. And even though you said there it wasn't too bad, and you got through it all right and all, but you think that the fact that it was every day was maybe like a struggle in your own way, or a struggle to prove yourself, or a struggle to look after your brother, that helped you. We saw the last couple of fights, the way you had to come through it from hard times and got you through it. Do you think that that you've just been bred that way to be like that?
Yeah, and again, that's just, I think that's just Drogheda, to be honest. That's just that mentality. Everybody, I could be mad here, John, maybe everyone, but that was just my mentality, you know what I mean? I was just that was the way it was for me, even I don't know, collecting for the bomb for Halloween, and the boys could try to come take our stuff, you know what I mean? That was such a, as I said, it concerned me, it was such a big thing, and you didn't want to come across as weak or let anyone bully you, and I was always brought up myself, and if someone don't hit first, which I learned very quickly that's wrong. You should, if there's that happening, you should hit first and hard. But I was, I was brought up, if you get hit them back twice as hard, So just that mentality. And again, to be honest, I think I really bring that still into me fights now to this day, Sean. I go into fights each time I'm 0-0. I don't even think I'm undefeated, and I've lost many times at Armatur, and I just have that mentality, and it's just it's just again those kind of natural doubts and constantly trying to prove to yourself that you're good enough, and again, it's probably funny coming from a fighter that's undefeated, or coming from a fighter in general, but most of them probably won't admit that, but that's the constant dialogue in the mind, and it's you're trying to always constantly shadow that those thoughts and train as hard, and then you're getting into the fights. No, hold on, I left no stone unturned here, and I've done everything I can, and made the best man win. The boy.
How good is this? You mentioned your brother, and obviously he fought at Armatur, and coming up, I remember Andrew McGahan doing interviews with the two of you. He kind of said these are the two boys coming up, and obviously he's from your part of the world as well, or not too far away, and and he was talking you up the whole time, and he's proved to be right with you. But obviously your brother, I know he still trains you, and he trained with you the whole time coming up. But how important is that? I was watching a couple of interviews with you, and you kept mentioning your girlfriend and your family. How important is that not only, so before your motivation was to protect him and look after yourself, is that still the motivation? Is family a big thing for you as you fight these days?
Yeah, big time. And like you mentioned there, it wasn't so much it's protecting him around. It was because he could handle himself obviously as well. He always trained and stuff as well. But it was more I don't know, it was just that mentality. And then, going forward now, I suppose, there was a kind of point where I was maybe early 20s, and it was just at the end of the amateur days and stuff, and I used to think oh, this is everything for me, and if this doesn't work out, I've nothing, you know what I mean? And that was the mentality, and maybe that's what got me here, I don't know, but it was just, I was so in love with this, and still am obviously, but it's the more now I realise that the support that I have from the likes of my family, be careful, Lauren, and I have Daryl there, he's always trained with me, and again, when the sun rises on the Monday and everybody's going to work, I'll still have them there, and I think other fighters maybe I don't know, but they might be having trouble with their family, and some of them might have kids and stuff, all these kind of external stresses. But for me, I think it's nearly it's an advantage. I have that such support unit, the boy. And again, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that, but trust me, this sport is my life. Everything, the character I've become, the man that's talking to you here now, is everything through this sport. And but yeah, no, just those little things. I think it's I have that's kind of my I suppose it's an advantage in a way, you know, the way.
Yeah, 100%. How important as well is your fate? Because you mentioned after the last fight, you know, we kind of asked you in the scrum afterwards, how did you get through that? And you were like, it wasn't Ciaran Clarke, it was the man above who got me through that. And you know, you mentioned you're halfway between Dublin and Belfast, which I suppose there's a lot of religion and a lot of faith around that area. How important is that for you and something you bring into it? Because it's something maybe we don't hear as much from fighters anymore. We always maybe heard it from boxers and fighters down through the years, but these days for you to come out and kind of say that as well, is that a big thing for you day to day?
Yeah, no, I'm delighted you asked actually, yeah, as well, because I know a lot of time it kind of falls in deaf ears, but look, that's fair enough. A lot of other things as well, you know, it's each of their own, of course, but yeah, like to rephrase what I meant in that interview, like you know, like because people were like to me, oh, of course you could do that and this and that, and I was like, no, I know I have done it, but it's through God that I've done it. You know, God has given me the strength. It's not as if like, you know, I'm, you know, I think people might have misunderstood that, and not to say you did there, but like that's what I'm saying. Like, get the strength from God and from the Lord. You know what I mean? And that's a big part for me. And it's funny, like I have a lot of conversations with Daryl, and that's what I meant to Daryl. Like, you know, Daryl's great faith, and it's funny, we have conversations together. The more faith you have, the more you realize you have no faith, and that's like someone that is faithful would understand what I mean with that, you know. But just even these little conversations, and that's what I meant by like Daryl feels like the big brother sometimes. Just these, you know, conversations that he might not even think means anything, but he's really, you know, he's really guided me in the right direction. And again, I really do think that's probably another power I have going into the fights. And you know, I never pray to like win or anything like that. It's not like that. It's like I pray to give me the strength to get through the training and you know what I mean. So I think that's it's a massive thing for me, you know, especially in this sport, you know.
Could you get to that a little bit further? You say when you have faith, you know, you realise maybe you don't have faith. I always hear things like that with MMA and with jiu-jitsu. The more you know, the more you realise you don't actually know. Is it a similar thing to that?
It's exactly that. Yeah, it's like the more you the more faith you have, the less you have. And what I mean by that is, like, you know, to really get into it, it's like, you know, you realise how much little faith you have, because, you know, obviously if you want to get really into it, you know, quotes in the Bible, and again, it might fall on deaf ears for a lot of people, but like, you can literally move mountains with faith, like literally, you know. So, and for me, like, again, as I said, if we'd enough faith in, you know, God and Jesus, like we could do anything in life. And again, I'm still trying to get you know, it's a lifelong journey, that, you know what I mean, and it's something that it's every day, it's you build on it, and it's you know, you fall down, you get back up, it's a big thing, you know. And again, trust me, Sean, I am no saint, and I'm not the one to be pointing fingers, and I don't like to be like that or anything. I certainly don't want to come across that or anything, and you know, because again, at the end of the day, we're all sinners, and I'm in no position to be doing that, you know. But to be honest, I'm really delighted you brought this up, and that, because again, I don't know if anyone's interested, or but it's something that I thought I'd like to talk about, you know.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting, because what fascinates me a lot of the time is what makes a fighter tick, or what makes any sort of sportsman tick, but especially a fighter, because you fought last September, and now you're fighting in February, and that's a long time to go kind of without competing and to not go mad. You know, a lot of people, you know, they don't have religion, maybe they have something else, maybe there's something else they concentrate. I remember Conor back in the day talking about like The Secret, and you know, him believing he was meant for this, which is fate in a different sort of way, I suppose. But like, is that the sort of thing through those lonely winter nights, maybe even that something like that gets you through it?
Yeah, definitely. Like, and like, as I said, like, you know, after the fights, no matter win or loss, you know, I'm still going to the fights, broken nose, black eyes, and going into the church, and like, you know, you one from down the road, 70 odd years old, looking at me, what's the crack with your man? Like, and I'm still going to mass on the Sunday, and I'm still trying my best, and you know, it's funny, but yeah, like, as I said, I still have that, and again, you know, I remember watching The Ultimate Fighter before, and again, you can look at it both ways, or it's nothing to do with religion or anything, but I remember watching it, and there was a fella on, and he fought Uriah Hall. It was actually the guy that Uriah Hall spinning back kicked. I forget the guy's name, but he was like, I have money, you know, I'm set for life, I don't need this, you know. And he was like, you know, basically, I'm doing this because I love it. And I was like, no way, yeah, like, geez, that's maybe his power. Now he did end up going to lose the fight, but he was saying, like, I don't have to do this or anything. Now that's not my case. I'm not saying that I could stop tomorrow and have a nice cushy number of a nice, my father there's paying for a nice car or straight into a job. It's nothing to do with that. But I got that mentality then, and that's where I think it's the same for me. Like, and again, I don't want to be like, trying to remind myself of that, but like, again, at the end of the day, it is a fight, and don't get me wrong, I'm to the last second, as you know, I'm fighting till the end. But yeah, like, it's just putting things into perspective,
Adam Sella is your man's name, isn't it? Adam Sella, is that it?
There you go.
That's the knowledge. You mentioned as well there the IMAFs, and I suppose, like, it's all well and good to say all of that, but to have the practice to go in there, and you said, you've lost at amateur, and we see it with lads these days. We even see Christian Nera Duncan there recently gone into the UFC now. Lost a good few fights in amateur, but look at him now as a pro, undefeated. Yourself undefeated as a pro. I'm fascinated as well by this, the IMAFs and the new kind of way amateurs are coming up and how it's working and how it's going to work into the future, because it's still relatively new with fighters like yourself. Only 6 fights into your career. We'll see how it works for everyone maybe in a few years' time. For you, how was that experience and being able to go in there and get a few fights on a week? I remember the last time you said you saw a Brazilian lad and you saw him on the mitts and thought, he must be a bit of a striker. I'll go in and take him down. How important is it to do that, to kind of strip it back to, like, it's just the fight, it's just you in there, it's just you kind of your tactics and your ability in there, and how, like, on the way up, and to learn like that, how did that affect you? Do you think it was good? Do you think it was bad? Do you think there's anything you could change with it?
Yeah, like, it's everything. There's a few things in that. Now, it's a fairly broad enough question, but like just give an example. Look at Chris Duncan now. I didn't know he lost so many times amateur, and like, he's a killer, man. Like, so, and like, maybe people look at me at 6-0 and they're like, geez, he's doing well, but like, you look at the amateur, like, no way, he lost so many times and won it so many times. But for me, it was like the experience of fighting, the best guys in the world, and just I wasn't even thinking about winning or losing, and it was, for me at that time, was to be representing Ireland, to win the gold medal for Ireland, and to be on that podium here in the national anthem. That was it drove me so much. It was such a I won't even say motivator, but it was, that experience. I just loved every minute of it, fighting each day. I remember I was in the cold plunge for 10 minutes one day, and I was rattling, trying to look at the clock, battling it. Next day I look at me man that was fighting the next day in the jacuzzi, staring me down. I'm like, well, pal, like, I didn't know. You get so used to sharing, medical with the lads you're fighting, and it just kind of normalized. And it's like, no, it is just a sport, and no walkouts and stuff. And it makes you question, like, if there was no, like, social media, because I started pre-McGregor. Say, Conor was only, say, not even fighting for the world, Cage Warriors world titles at the time. I started in 2011, so, like, there was no social media taking a snap after training, and it's something I struggle with still now to this day, even trying to get, constantly, because people say to me, "Oh, you still training?" I'm like, "Of course I'm still training." Like, it's my life. Like, but like, if you're not posting, people, but like, things like that. I credit the staying the amateur for that long, and the IMFs. Like, I have 30 fights now all combined, and that experience definitely carries over. I think it's shown.
I'm just looking at your amateur record there, and some of the names you fought, like Magomedov. I think he's like 10-0 now or something as a pro. Tobias Harila is an absolute monster. You beat him as an amateur, fought him a couple of times as an amateur. Even your teammate Nate Kelly fought as an amateur. Thomas Moore, I remember when he was coming up, he was an absolute beast. I think he won the amateur fighter of the year one year as well. And there's so many names there. How good is it to look back at that and say, right, these lads are doing well as pros as well. And I went in there and I competed against these lads as well. It must be good to see that the way that, like, it's not just you coming through, or not just a couple of lads coming through, but there's a lot of people coming through from that same system.
Yeah, look, again, you can look at all the lads, and like, you might look at the losses and the wins, but like, that Tobias win for me and loss, it was such a big thing. It's still to this day my biggest win, personally, because he knocked me out in the March, the quarterfinals of the IMAFs. Is the only one of two times I was knocked out, and then to come back later on that year to beat him, he was wearing the gold suit, he was the favourite, cameras following him, he got the bye the day before. That's when I fought the Brazilian the day before him. him, but went on to beat Tobias. He was ranked #1 in the world at the time, and like you mentioned, that Russian Magomedov, and other guys like Bogdan Grad. I think he's like 10-1, and Nate Kelly, Jack Maguire, Conor Hitchens, all these names, all IMMAF medalists and world beaters, really. So it's great to see us all still trucking away and doing well at pro now as well. But like you said, to look back and that, it's like, no, I have had this experience, and I think, again, as I said, I think it stands to me,
I would ask you about Dave Roche, because I've had a few SPG guys on recently, and you'd talk for 5 minutes after the interview, and a lot of people mentioned Dave Roche and how good of a coach he is and what big of a difference he kind of made coming in. I know a lot of organisational stuff as well. I think Will Fleury was kind of saying, obviously we know John Cavan and we know all Sergey and the other coaches have been there for a long while. Tell me about Dave Roche. I know you mentioned him the last time you spoke as well after the fight. How big has he been for you, and what does he bring to the camp?
Yeah, like Dave Roche, it's his personality, and he'd be always on to you, and certain spars he'd be on to. Of course, John's there and the main man, and it's, for me, it's the relationship, and I trust the two of them. When I'm in the corner, and I think John has mentioned that in interviews before about myself, he said I'm very good at taking instruction, and I think that's a big thing. Like, I really trust the two boys in the corner there, and it's a big thing, if Daryl's there as well and they call something, I think if you have that slight, doubt in anything they're calling or in what they're telling you to train in or to train for or anything, or certain guys to be sparring it, and as I said, Dave there, he was there for me. John had my professional debut. It was obviously a big night for the gym back in 2019, the end of 2019, and I ended up being the swing bout that night, and I was like, I didn't know when it'd be on. It ended up being on at 12 o'clock anyway, and the boys were in cleaning the stands when I was fighting. But Dave Roche was doing a lot with me backstage, just calm me down, and just he was there for me, himself and John Bourne and a teammate of mine, and just little things like that, like, whereas John's obviously a busy man and things like that, whereas John's traveling to Brazil for Johnny, he's I don't know, things like that, he's traveling off away and stuff, so then Dave's there, the second man, so it's great to have the two boys,
100%. I saw you were training as well with Rafael Hudson there. You were talking about putting up pictures. Obviously, your last opponent. How good was that to be able to train with him?
Yeah, it was deadly. Yeah, because actually, he was texting me about coming over. I told him to get in touch with John and Dave, and you kind of, some opponents have mentioned that before, and they come to train and stuff. And again, with Rafael Hudson, he's no English, nothing, so then I was thinking that might be a barrier for him. Anyway, come in there Tuesday night, and the lads are like, "Oh, yeah, my man's up there," and I was like, "Oh, deadly, happy days." So I went up, was chatting him, but what I could, and I was like, "Oh, good to see him," and he's here for a week. And actually, John even put up a post and stuff about it as well, that different fighters coming over that had fought SPG guys, and yeah, it was great to get rounds with him. Then it was brilliant,
How good is it this time around? I suppose that I remember that was on a week's notice or 10 days notice or something like that. Not even that, I don't think. How good is it this time to have Keir Harvie and actually have that name and realise what you're training for this time? Although we're still a couple of weeks out here, so you never know. Touch wood, no, nothing will happen. But
yeah,
hopefully. But how first of all, how tough was that? I suppose you had the IMFs and you knew it, but What for you is the difference between a short notice and someone you prepare for a long time? Do you put a lot of preparation into the opponent?
No, to be honest, and that don't take that, some people might take eyes, don't get me wrong, Keir Harvie is the most footage of watching an opponent because it was the most I could find. And I watch all their fights and see what they're good at and where I think he can win the fight, and even just their little habits, standing up on the ground, what are they going for, everything like that, But mentality for that one was 7 days out to Saturday. I think that was even I think that might even been 6 days out. I'm not even sure. If I kind of forget, I think it was a Saturday. Yeah, but anyway, to find out, it was it was devastating, because I did sold a lot of tickets, and obviously the buzz of the place and training for this Frenchman. He had a good fight with Elias, and he was a striker. And but look, as I said, I always prepare. I'm always focusing on myself. I feel I go in there, react. They're reacting to me. Whereas I feel if I'm going in there and I'm looking for, he throws whatever, just say a jab. I'm waiting for the jab. I'm waiting for it, and you're kind of reacting to them then, So whereas I just kind of focus on myself, and I know you're probably listening to that for years with the SBG guys. It doesn't matter who. And don't get me wrong, yeah, like that's great to hear, but it definitely is a big thing. Like you do have to be watching it with your opponent's good at and stuff. But it's good to know now that I have a name now, and it's all good so far,
I'll ask you again about Ciaran in a second, but just on the tactics, I suppose I find it very interesting. Like you obviously have to prepare for the fighter, but then you can't over prepare, I suppose, because what did they say, paralysis by analysis or whatever they call it. How do you find like a good blend of that? That must be one of the toughest things to find, and I'm sure the amateurs and the 6 fights you've had already helped to get that experience. But like that must be one of the most difficult things for you coming up, And I know, as I said, a lot of fights now, but is that something you've kind of gone back and forth on? Have you gone into one fight saying, I'm going to do this, and this? And have you gone to another fight saying, I'm going to do absolutely nothing, I'll see what comes to me?
Yeah, well, I learned actually fairly early on, to be honest. I actually, another guy I fought, an amateur, James Sheehan. It was at my 3rd amateur fight. And like that, I was getting into the fight and he threw a jab, 1 or 2 jabs, and I was like, right, I'm going to slip that and bang a right hand or something. 3rd jab he threw, he faked it, threw a head kick, bang. I was seeing double from that. I was seeing double for the whole fight, and from then on, it was just intakes. That was actually a great fight. It was a war back and forth, And we were chatting about it actually before at the IMFs when he went to compete as well, and like that. Like again, I was reacting to him. I was thinking. I wasn't reacting, and again, like I know what I'm saying that word reacting a lot, and if you actually do react, it's the best. But I think if you're waiting for it and you're thinking he's going to do this, he's going to do that, as September to February, you could be fighting a whole different guy. You know what I mean? Who knows? You could be doing different things, and styles make fights. I'm sure Keir is going to, approach this fight different to all the fights I've watched him on. So, well, if he wants to win, he should anyway. But so things like that, but definitely I put it down to just experience, the amateurs, and again, I always watch fights and I'm watching them, I'm like, oh, he looks handy here and there, and I'm like, you watch my fight then previously, and I'm like, God, he didn't do that, he didn't do this, because he's in there fighting me, so I just try and focus on myself. But as you said, it's hard to find that happy medium,
Watching a few Keir fights, I'm watching fighting Manny Akpan there this morning, who I have great respect for. I think he's a very, very good fighter, and he showed. I think he shows in a lot of his fights that he likes to strike and he goes out to strike. But that one, he showed he can wrestle. He can even pull guard a couple of times. Saw him in that fight to get the fight to the ground. Against you, that might be a little bit different. But then, like you've said in the past as well, that you want to show your striking more. You want to show you're well rounded as more, and it just so happens sometimes you end up dragging lads to the ground or have to drag them into deep waters because that's the way the fight goes. What way do you think this fight will go? What way do you think like both of you will actually approach it, and how will it look?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a technical fight. I think if he, I remember that fight with Akpan. He came out real tall, real long, kind of Conor-esque style, backed him up to the fence, and that was a great win for him because I think Akpan's a good fighter as well. But yeah, he came out kind of big, long, and tall, and he pushed him back to the fence. But look, I think he'll probably fight the fight different, and I know he's from a good gym and that. But yeah, I think it'd be a measured fight from the two of us. I think it's probably going to be different, but from my end, I definitely want to be able to show me striking more. And again, it's such a, at the pros certainly anyway, the pro level of me experiencing, it's probably something it's obviously something I haven't shown, and like that, everything else opens up more. With your striking, the threat to takedown, the striking opens up. With the takedown, you're striking. It's vice versa, you know what I mean? The both of them are go hand in hand. If he's thinking about the takedown, the striking's going to work. If he's thinking about the striking, takedown comes easier. Or you make him think he's in a kickboxing fight, takedown comes. Or it's quite self-explanatory, but it's in there. In the tree arena, which was maybe 6th time, and in such that environment, such a big show. It's I'm still trying to get comfortable with that. But as I said, I'm working on it the last few months, and it's something that anyone else, be coaches, don't have to tell me. I know myself there, and then what I need to be working on, and I'm working on hard in the last few months, and doing a lot of visualizing and a lot of even shadow boxing rounds, even just like playing play by play the fight through my mind, and things like that, like, you know, to really like hone in on that kind of, you know, try to really feel those feelings in there, and obviously the fight simulation rounds and stuff in the gym to help with that. So working really hard, and I'm hoping to show it now in whatever it is now, geez, 20 odd days, you know.
Not too far out. Ciaran, I really appreciate the time. Thank you very much, and best of luck in the fight. I'm sure that the whole of Drogheda will be down again, as they always seem to be, and it's always the start of a great night when your fight comes on and the crowds are on. I really appreciate the time. Thanks very much.
Thanks a million, Sean. Really enjoyed that. Thank you.
Lovely.